What's up, everybody, and welcome to Read the Bible with me. I'm Stan Jr., and today we're looking at First Kings, Second Kings, chapter 4. And if you're new here, go ahead and click subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell. If you are a Bible Club member, please like this video and leave a comment below. And thank you so much for supporting this ministry with your donation each month of $10 through the Patreon account, because we're able to send Bibles and missionaries throughout the world by partnering with Voice of Martyrs and by your donation. So thank you so much for that. Continue to help us do that. If you haven't, click the link in the description. You can do that. Let's look at chapter 4 of the book of 2 Kings. It says, "Now the wife of one of the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, 'Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. But the creditor has come to take my 2 children to be his slaves.'" Now, what I love about this already is that she's gone to the man of God rather than to her friends, to her family, to gossip, because her family is just going to say, why didn't your husband take care of the affairs? Why are you dealing with this? They're just going to complain and murmur. But she went straight to the man of God. And so Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what have you in the house?" And she said, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." Then he said, "Go outside, borrow vessels from all your neighbors." Now she's already in debt, and everybody already knows that the creditors are coming to take her children. You live in a neighborhood, people know that the eviction notice is on your door, So they know what kind of state she's in, and now she's got to walk around and ask to get in more debt from people that already know her situation. It's humiliating. And he says, "Don't borrow a few, borrow a lot." And then he says, "Then go into your house, and shut the door behind yourself and your sons, and pour into all these vessels. And when one is full, set it aside." So she went from him and shut the door behind herself and her sons. She obeyed the voice of the prophet, and as she poured, they brought the vessels to her. Now, when the vessels were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another vessel." And he said to her, "There is not another." That little jar she had filled all the vessels up. So she knew she was in the middle of a miracle, because she's literally pouring into these vessels from this small little jar. The Lord was working the miracle. And so then the oil stopped flowing. She came and told the man of God, and he said to her, "Go and sell the oil and pay all your debts, and you and your sons will live on the rest." Isn't that something? He put her in the business, because faith without works is dead. She had faith, but she had to put her faith to works. And she had to work, and she had to, show some fruit that she believed. And so one day Elisha went. That was a poor widow. Now Elijah's going to a rich woman now. One day Elisha went to Shunem, where a wealthy woman lived, who urged him to eat some food. Whenever he passed that way, he would turn in there to eat food. And she said to her husband, "Behold, now I know that this is a holy man of God, who is continually passing our way. Let us make a small room on the roof with walls, and put there for him a bed, a table, a chair, a lamp, so that whenever he comes to us, he can go there." One day he came there, and he turned into the chamber and rested there. And she said to Gehazi, his servant, "Call this Shunammite." When he had called her, she stood before him, and he said to him, "Say now to her, 'See, you have taken all this trouble for us. What is to be done for you? Would you have a word spoken on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army?" She said, "I dwell among my own people." And he said, "What then is to be done for her?" Gehazi answered, "Well, she has no son, and her husband is old." He said, "Call her." And he came and called her, and she stood in the doorway. And she said, "At this season, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son." And she said, "No, my lord, O man of God, do not lie to your servant." But the woman conceived, and she bore a son about that time, the following spring. And Elijah had said to her, as Elijah had said to her. When the child had grown, he went out one day to his father among the reapers, and he said to his father, "Oh, my head, my head." The father said to his servant, "Carry him to his mother." And when he had lifted him and brought him to his mother, the child sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door behind him and went out. And she called to her husband and said, Send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys, that I may quickly go to the man of God and come back again. And he said, Why will you go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. She said, All is well. Then she saddled the donkey, and she said to her servant, Urge the animal on. Do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you. So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. And when the man of God saw her coming, he said to Gehazi, his servant, Look, there is the Shunammite. Run at once to meet her and say to her, Is all well with you? Is all well with your husband? Is all well with your child? And she answered, All is well. And when she came to the mountain and the man of God, she caught hold to his feet. And Gehazi came to push her away, but the man of God said, Leave her alone, for she is in bitter distress. And the Lord had hidden it from me and has not told me. So I think it's very important here that we look and see that the woman says all is well, when clearly all was not well. But she was saying all is well because I have found the man of God. All is well because I know that God is in control. All is well because I know the sovereignty of God is real. And so she was able to say all is well in any time of her life, at the lowest point of her life where her son had just died. Are you able to say all is well when things go wrong? It's easy to say all is well when everything's going right, but when things are going wrong, everything's going wrong. All is well? What an example of faith this woman had. And then she said, Did I ask my Lord for a son? Did I not say, Do not deceive me? And he said to Gehazi, Tie up your garment and take my staff to your hand and in your hand and go. If you meet anyone, do not greet them. And if anyone greets you, do not reply. And lay my staff on the face of the child. Then the mother of the child said, As the Lord lives and as yourself live, I will not leave you. So he arose and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the face of the child, but there was no sound or sign of life. Therefore he returned to meet him and told him, The child has not awakened. When Elijah came into the house, he saw the child lying dead on his bed. So he went and shut the door behind the two of them and prayed to the Lord. Then he went up and lay on the child, putting his mouth on his mouth, his eyes on his eyes, and his hands on his hands, and he stretched himself upon him. The flesh of the child became warm. Then he got up again and walked once back and forth in the house, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times. And the child opened his eyes. Then the Shunammite, he summoned Gehazi and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her. When she came to him, he said, Pick up your son. She came and fell at his feet, bowing to the ground. Then she picked up her son and went out. And Elijah came again to Gilgal when there was a famine in the land. And as the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, he said to his servant, Set on the large pot and boil stew for the sons of the prophets. One of them went out into the field to gather herbs and found a wild vine and gathered from it his lap full of wild gourds, and came and cut them up into the pot of stew, not knowing that they were what they were. And they poured out some for the men to eat. But while they were eating the stew, they cried out, "O man of God, there is death in this pot." And they could not eat it. He said, "Bring flour." And he threw it into the pot and said, "Pour some out for the men, that they may eat there." And there was no harm in the pot. A man came from Baal Shalisha, bringing the man of God bread and the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley and fresh ears of grain in his sack. And Elijah said, "Give to the men, that they may eat." But his servant said, "How can I set this before 100 men?" So he repeated, "Give them to the men, that they may eat. For thus says the Lord, that they shall eat and have some left." So he set it before them, and they ate and had some left, according to the word of the Lord. So we see now Elijah's life is so in the presence of God. It's so bent towards the will of God that he is moving in a realm of the supernatural that we have not seen to this day. And we see Jesus does some of these same things. We don't see it until Jesus really moving in such the realm of the supernatural. Let us all pray to see God this way. in our lives. I thank you, Lord, for all that you're doing for everyone that reads the Bible with me every single day, God. And Lord, I pray for each and every Bible Club member that you continue to provide for them according to Philippians 4:19. Thank you so much for reading with me today. This is chapter 4, the book of 2 Kings. Next time I see you, we'll be reading chapter 5 of the book of 2 Kings. God bless you. Peace.